Welcome everyone, Tactical Itch here, and today we are back on the battlefield of the League of Extraordinary Degenerates, this time between the green one as Kislev and Central Scrutinizer as the Dark Elves. Now, against a S-tier faction, the Dark Elf army here, led by Central Scrutinizer, is going for an interesting approach. Now, the front line is pretty standard here, Bleak Swords mixed in with Dread Spears, but they're going super wide as they do have a back line of a ton of missiles, 4 Dark Shards in total, plus 3 more Reaper Bolt Throwers, providing a ton of armor-piercing firepower. They're protected by some Koan Knights with the armor-piercing and anti-lodge fighting power. Leading the army, there are no Soul Stealers today, nor do they have any Malice Darkblade on the field, so no healing for the Dark Elves. Instead, they're going for the High Beastmaster, a rather cheap lord, on his Scourge Runner Chariot, providing a bit of that armor-piercing anti-lodge missile, but that is not the point. As a character, he doesn't actually bring that much to the table, but the important thing is his item, the Tormentor Sword. It is a snare that can limit enemy mobility and lock them down for the armor-piercing firepower to really shoot up their targets. Should be able to synergize well with the Dark Elf missile spam. Supported by a bit of Sorceress of Death with her Spirit Leech, that's it for the Dark Elf army. On the other side of the battlefield, we have the Kislevites, a front line of armored Corsairs, backed up by a ton of mobility, 2 things in the woods, one of them the Mortham Beowulfs, plus a bunch of Kozvite Dervishes for a bit of cheaper, quicker mobility, 2 heavy war sleds for that armor-piercing skirmishing firepower, and perhaps just for running through those Dark Elf infantry, leading the army Mother Ostankia with Flock of Doom, and of course the word save. I believe there's also actually no items, nothing else. Probably just trying to use Ostankia as a chariot piece that is more resilient to missile fire. Should be supported by a Patriarch on horseback who have brought his Celex Lullaby, the Balalaika of Arari, and of course Das Brazier for that double heal. That's all of the armies, and without further ado, let's get the battle rolling. With the Reaper Bolt Throwers on their side, the Dark Elves are free to just sit back and unleash some long-range firepower on the Kislevite formations. However, they are not in scattershot, so not exactly the most efficient use of their ammo, but damage is still damage. Mother Ostankia will be moving up, and the Reaper Bolt Throwers, some of them will be switching target over to the Kislevite leadership. Same goes for the High Beastmaster, who does have a bit of anti-large armor-piercing shots. However, Mother Ostankia on her sled is quite nimble and swift, and was able to dodge away from some of the shots, returning the favor to the Dark Elves with a bit of overcasted Flock of Doom. On the other side, we have some Kozvite Dervishes moving up. One of them are stopping right here and are putting themselves right in front of these Dark Shards, taking a devastating volley. The other one tries to go for a cheeky move against the Dark Elves here, trying to sneak through the Dark Elf infantry formation, but alas, the Tormentor Sword comes into play and pinning them down, allowing the Dark Shards to tear them a new one. On the other side, Mother Ostankia taking quite a bit of damage from all the missiles as the micro went over to the Kislevite Dervishes, and Mother Ostankia getting shot multiple times from the Reaper Bolt Throwers, and a Spirit Leech draining her health away is taking substantial damage. Now she is trying to move into the Dark Elf backline, but she also puts herself into point blank range on these Dark Shards, and the Dark Shards just shot her down to less than a quarter of her HP. However, the rather loose formation of the Dark Elves means that some of the Kislev units still manage to get through. With some of the Dread Spears breaking, the Dark Elves are collapsing on this flank, especially with the War Sleds rolling in. Kislev is really pushing hard on this side, though Mother Ostankia is forced into retreat after taking way too much damage. The Patriarch did manage to get a Celex Lullaby on her and get some healing for her. But with her health so low, it's very unlikely for her to get healthy enough to go back into combat, putting herself in danger of getting shot and Spirit Leeched. On the other side, some Kislevites also managed to get through the Dark Elf defenses, but there are some Koan Knights and Dread Spears in reserve holding back these Kislevite mobility. The Heavy War Sleds has rolled through the Dark Elf right flank and are now pushing straight for the other side of the Dark Elf army, but this is where the loose formation comes into play. Despite losing this entire side to the Kislev push, the Dark Elves are not quite over yet. You can still see that the Dark Elves are forming up on this side here, having quite a few units in reserve. Dread Spears over here is still very much healthy, basically seeing minimal action. The Cohen Knights are stemming the tide of Mordheim Beowulfs, and there are some regrouped Draspiers returning into the fight, able to help out against all these Kosovo dervishes, while the heavy war sleds over here are pinned down by the sacrifice of some of these Cohen Knights, tying them down in melee combat and allowing some regrouped Draspiers to re-engage. Right behind them, some Darkshots have regrouped as well, providing some crucial fire support. They're now able to unleash their armor-piercing fire into the heavy war sleds, as they are now pretty much sitting right in front of the Darkshots here, unable to push through the Dark Elf mobility. Even the High Beastmaster is running in. Oh boy, this Tormentor Sword coming in clutch, once again locking down double war sleds, and one of them will be shot to absolute pieces, while the other one was not able to help out their friends. The Dark Elf's left flank is still relatively safe for now. There are still some armored Kossars pushing, but they are not exactly shooting the right targets here, as the Draspiers taking the shots with their silver shields, while the Darkshots here without their shields would have been a much better target. Now back to the right flank, where the Tormentor Sword effect finally wears off, allowing one of the war sleds to pursue their attackers, but the other war sled got absolutely shredded by all that missile fire, and none of them survived. This is a big loss for Kislev, because that means they have one less piece of mobility. Still, there are some Kossars remaining that can pressure the Dark Elf backline. They'll be targeting the Darkshots, but they seem to have ran out of ammo, so they'll be charging into melee combat, while the war sleds over here, trying to avenge their fallen brethren, charging straight into the flanks of these Darkshots, rolling through almost the entire unit. One of them even pushing through the Darkshot formation and getting onto a second Darkshot, doing a lot of impact damage right there. Unfortunately though, here are some Cohen Knights reacting to this war sled threat and will be pushing them back. The armored Kossars are engaging in combat now, so should be able to screen away the Cohen Knights, but the heavy war sleds still took some substantial damage throughout the engagements, being shot by the Darkshots when they were pinned down by Tormentor Sword, and then now being surrounded by Cohen Knights. Darkshots at the back will be shooting at the armored Kossars. Armored Kossars are rather slow as a heavy infantry, so the Darkshots can just keep kiting them away. However, not if the Kosovite dervishes come in and tie them down. We'll see what happens there, as Mother Ostankia has returned from routing, might be able to drop some Flock of Dooms to drain away the Dark Elf forces, but she must always stay ahead of any Dark Elf pursuers because she is way too low right now and she is not in the range of the Patriarch healing. Not taking Goliath might be biting Ostankia in the back because she has no access to healing, unless she put herself in mortal danger by approaching the Patriarch, who is right in the middle of a lot of action. Now another Flock of Doom from Mother Ostankia draining the health of the Cohen Knights and the Darkshots there, while the Death Sorceress dropping a Spirit Leech onto Patriarch, forcing that one final Selach's Lullaby onto the Patriarch himself, so no more active healing for Mother Ostankia. This is a huge issue because Ostankia has no healing unless she really risks it and join Patriarch in a melee fight to activate Das Brazier, which is quite difficult considering the Patriarch is still getting chased. Armored Kossars turning around to shoot at the Cohen Knights, while over here, some Darkshots are still able to sit back and fire on the Armored Kossars who were too busy dealing with other Dark Elf forces. The High Beastmaster will be rolling through the battlefield, probably trying to charge into some of these Kossars and disrupt their advance. At the back though, the armored Kossars finally managed to break through one of the Darkshot units, and perhaps they can start pressuring another Darkshot like the ones over here, cross-firing into these poor armored Kossars here and almost finishing off the entire unit. Some of these things in the woods have regrouped, trying to surround the High Beastmaster and finishing him off, but alas, they just do not have that kind of HP to finish the job. Patriarch charging into combat, but not doing too much damage against the AT armor of the High Beastmaster's chariot. Now at the back there, Darkshots are just safely sitting back, shooting at this one unit of armored Kossars who have their sights turned to the Darkshots, while they themselves are too busy chasing this one unit of Darkshots. This is why late game missiles are so annoying to deal with, because if you want to chase one unit, the other is just free to fire from another angle, especially from the side that is unshielded, so the shields aren't even mitigating any incoming missile damage. Now Patriarch charging in, finally trying to disrupt some of these Darkshots, but a Spirit Leech is quickly draining his health away. And the armored Kossars over here, who were pressuring one unit of Darkshots before, has been stopped by the interception of the High Beastmaster. Now, the Dark Shards are able to just turn around and keep firing at these poor armored Cossacks once again. The rest of the Kislev infantry are still trying to push, but they just have too much armor on them, unable to catch up with the lightly cladded Dark Elf missiles, being dragged into a bit of a wild goose chase. This unit of armored Cossacks continues to push, but right next to them, the Death Sorceress exploded in an overcast Spirit Leech, finishing off Mother Ostankia. This might just spell the end of the Kislevite army, as the leadership of everything on their side is pretty much wavering and activating that Bile Blood effect. Of course, Kislevites are a stubborn bunch, and the Bile Blood effect prevents army losses from setting in. But with only armored infantry remaining, the Kislevites will get kited to death, so they'll be throwing in the towel. GG to both the Green One and Central Scrutinizer for this game. I really like the High Beast Master pick from Central Scrutinizer here. He is not exactly a popular lord, but he does have his application with that Tormented Sword. Back in the early days of the channel, I actually made a meme build video featuring this guy. Having the only area crowd control ability on the entire Dark Elf roster does make him a unique lord of the Dark Elves. However, it is simply not Soul Stealer level of OPness, so you don't really see him that often. But still, in this case, his Tormentor Sword lockdown was crucial in eliminating one of the Kosovo dervishes and one of the heavy war sleds, pinning down enemy mobility and allowing all the missiles at the back, the Dark Shards, to fire at their targets, while the Drespiers and the Koa Knights can rush in to plug up the gaps in the formations. Even the Koa Knights manage to earn back their value and then some more. The Reaper Boltthrower is not doing the most damage, but that's fine because the Dark Shards and the Koa Knights actually managed to carry the game. And don't forget about the Spirit Leech from the Sorceress of Death, sacrificing herself for the victory of the Dark Elves. Kislevites, Mother Ostankia, even after all that damage, he still managed to get a good chunk of value just from her missile attacks and the Flock of Dooms. And then we have the Patriarch not doing the most damage and the Heavy War Sleds countered by the Koa Knights and being shot by the Dark Shards. They were not able to earn back their value. The Things in the Woods did okay, not exactly the most amazing performance, but the Armored Cossars did very fine today, cutting down a horde of Dark Elves, just not enough to carry the game. Kosovite Dervishes getting outclassed in the mobility department, so they can't really do much here. That's it for today's battle. I hope you all enjoy this multiplayer action, and if you want to see more Total Warhammer content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Itch, signing out.